Hello, I'm Steven.
And I'm Aaron.
And we've just seen
Tron,
Tron
Ares.
Ares, new film that's out in theaters right now, starring Jared Leto, Greta Lee, Evan Peters, Gillian Anderson, and it is directed by Joachim Running. So, whenever people say this movie is a mood or this movie is a vibe, that terminology was made for films like Tron and especially Tron Legacy. Not the case with Tron Ares, though. Tron Ares is like bamboo beneath your fingernails or pine cone shoved up your ass. This was an abominable sequel. I did not like it at all. This was utterly disappointing. It is a disgrace to the Tron series. What do you think?
Yeah, this movie is a train wreck. I thought it was really, really bad. Really kind of terrible.
Yeah, I kind of hated it.
I wouldn't say I hated it. It's almost funny how bad it is just because Disney and the creative team behind this movie clearly don't understand anything about what made the previous two films work and why people like them. All they took away from the movies is, one, people like nostalgia, so we have to go back to the 80s and throw back to the 80s, and nostalgia sells. And two, sound and visuals from Legacy, Daft Punk and the visuals. That seems to be the only thing that they think people liked from these previous movies. So that's all we get here is just visuals and noise.
Emphasis on noise. This is a noisy, loud movie that never shuts the hell up. One of the things I liked about Tron Legacy was that it was so driven by mood. There was a lot of calm in the movie. There was a lot of moments where the film just breathed.
Well, that's because the writers actually have their characters slow down for half a second to have an actual conversation that means something.
Correct. Tron Legacy is a way better movie than I initially gave it credit for. We rewatched it, and
we rewatched both of them.
Yeah, I found myself really liking that second one a lot.
Yeah, it has an idea that it explores, like, okay, what if the grid became like this dystopian nightmare led by a fascist regime? But at the heart of it is the story of a son and his father coming back together after decades of being apart, and solving a mystery of what happened. The first one is just like an introduction to the world, and that's the joy of it. It's short. You get in there. You got the bright colors. You got the interesting world.
The first one is like the quintessential cult film.
Yeah, there's so much artistry going on. There's so much that they did in that first one that kind of changed how movies were made.
It's a technical achievement that's still interesting to look at all these years later, especially in glorious 4K.
Yeah. But, yeah, Ares, it's just all gas. No brakes ever.
This is what I was afraid Legacy was going to be way back when I first saw it. Okay, so the plot to this one is an evil tech bro, Julian Dillinger, the grandson of Ed Dillinger, because I guess there was no good apples on that family tree. He's taken over the family business, and he has created this kind of 3D printer technology where you can craft a soldier that is in peak physical condition, massively intelligent, obeys orders, doesn't need sustenance, and it's the ultimate weapon that we can sell to the military.
It's basically the reverse of the digitizing laser in the originals, whereas like you would take matter from the real world and transport it to the digital world. Here you can take things from that digital world and bring it to the real world.
But it comes with a setback, which is that this super soldier, Ares, portrayed by Jared Leto, cannot exist in this world for more than 29 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
So
nothing printed with the machine from the digital world can survive longer than a half hour.
So Julian Dillinger is in search of this thing called the permanence code, which will allow it to self-sustain permanently. Meanwhile, there's another tech person named Eve who also has this same technology, but she wants to use it for environmental reasons, climate reasons.
She works for Encom.
Yeah, we can
longtime rival.
We can grow trees and crops with this technology, but she also wants the permanence code.
Yeah, she's kind of the taking on the mantle of Kevin Flynn, like the kind of the ideas he was talking about, changing the world in humanitarian ways.
So one wants to use the permanence code to create, the other wants to use the permanent code to destroy. Yeah, your hero and your villain. And Ares is the super soldier who is a program who has to learn how to be human. It's a bunch of recycled ideas that we've seen a million times before from a million better movies.
Yeah, it's the story of an AI discovering his humanity. We've seen this so many times, done better, including in movies that Jared Leto was in.
The greatest irony of this whole thing is that it's a movie about a program finding humanity, but there's not an ounce of humanity to this soulless dreck.
No, and it's because the dialogue is so unspeakably bad the entire time. Man, they come up all the time because so many writers think that this is just how movies are supposed to be written now. But Marvel, it's just kind of like infected everything. Like, everything is laced with wit and irony and humor, and nobody feels like an actual character with their own personality or their own characteristics. Everybody's just cracking jokes all the time and constantly talking.
It's like they write a script and then they run it through the quip filter, or they get hack comedians to do punch-up. We need more quips. We need more wit.
Yeah.
We need more irony.
God, it's almost like they turned Joss Whedon into like an AI program where you just upload your script and then all the dialogue is suddenly changed into like jokes the whole time. It's just terrible. And it doesn't help that the plot is basically a long chase movie because Eve has the permanence code and it's just the Dillinger Company chasing her down through the city, through the grid, through wherever they need to go to get it.
Yeah, Chase the MacGuffin, the movie.
But that's all it is. It's just constant chasing, constant action, constant characters yelling and talking and never shutting up. There's no human stakes to anything because the one character who's actually on some kind of a journey is a lifeless android for 90% of the movie.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like probably my biggest problem is like what they've done to the grid as a world and as an idea. Like, what even is the grid in this movie?
It's a tiny little set for most of the movie until the first big chase.
But, like, even when we get into the world of the grid, like, outside of Ares' little room, like, what is the grid? Like, what happens here?
I know. It has no identity. It's just a big red mass.
Yeah. In the original, there were people walking around. There was, like, stuff going on. You had security officers. In Legacy, like we said, it was a fascist nightmare where everything was, like, sterile. And you had, like, nightclubs. And there was people in the street. There was, like, homeless people. It was a world that existed.
Also, the programs within the grid had personalities. Here, they're all lifeless androids.
Yeah, and I mean, you could argue that the whole thing with Legacy is that they're ISOs, so they're basically a new form of life that have personalities and stuff like that. But even the programs had personalities, and they felt like characters and people. And I understand that the point is that he is a program who is very specifically programmed to follow orders, and that's about it. He's not programmed to have a personality. But my God, like these are the most boring people to watch I've seen in a long time, and it's also really annoying that their voices in the grid are all digitized.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's even hard to make out what they're saying.
There's so much vocal distortion going on in the grid. It's just becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, so you get flat delivery that's been digitized, and it's just a muddled mess.
And then the actual human characters aren't much better, particularly our protagonist Eve, who she talks like a valley girl, and that gets really infuriating.
You'd almost forget that not too long ago she was in Past Lives.
Oh my God, that was her?
Yeah, Greta Lee. Totally wasted here.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, completely wasted. Evan Peters is like the Dillinger guy. He's terrible because his dialogue is awful. He's generic tech bro guy who only cares about money. He even has the line of dialogue where he's talking to Ares. He's like, "You're gonna make me trillions of dollars."
Yeah.
God, who cares?
And Gillian Anderson is in there too for some
Okay,
reason.
that was her.
Yeah.
Okay, I it's been a while since I saw her, so when she first popped up, I was like, why is Gillian Anderson here? And then I wasn't sure it was even her.
Yeah, that's Scully.
The human characters are all bad. Eve's like got this best friend character, and that's his thing, is that he's the best friend character who always talks and always jokes, and he's always awkward, and he never knows how to read a room.
He kind of reminds me of that one douche from Jurassic World, the first one, who's like wearing the old Jurassic Park shirt, and he's all like, "That first sound was legit, dog."
Yeah, he's like Darcy in the first Thor movie, but turned up to 11 with none of the charisma of Kat Dennings. And like, how many microwave burrito jokes can we take, before they realize they're not funny?
Yeah, charisma. Jared Leto in this movie makes me long for the charisma of Garrett Hedlund.
Dude, yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. It's like, Garrett Hedlund's one of the weak points of that movie just because he's not really able to match the world and all the people around him.
Garrett Hedlund in Legacy is constantly being surrounded by electrifying performers like Jeff Bridges and Michael Sheen, and he just doesn't hold a candle to them, but oh my god, he's a Shakespearean thespian compared to Jared Leto in this film.
Yeah, and and it also doesn't help that the character of Cora is kind of like in a similar situation to Ares.
I was thinking the same thing
But
all throughout this.
Olivia Wilde has so much more life, so much more screen presence, so much more charisma.
That doe-eyed innocent look, that finding humanity through interactions with others shtick was done so much better by Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
Jared Leto is so blank-eyed.
Yeah, he's awkward and creepy and statistical about everything. It's like, this is not how you carry on conversations, and I guess that's supposed to be like a character quirk, because he talks in logic and stats and stuff like that. Oh, did you know that Depeche Mode had a #1 hit in 1982, and then, top of the charts, and I like this. Just the way he talks, just totally detached from any kind of humanity, that you never buy a story. And when the character finally gets to where, he's supposed to be, you don't care. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
It also doesn't help that he just looks like Jared Leto. They don't bother to differentiate his appearance. He's just the bearded supermodel that he's been portraying himself to be these past few years, his messianic attire. At the end of the movie, he just straight up looks like he's shooting a perfume commercial.
Also, it is disappointing that this is not much of a follow-up to Legacy, and that it doesn't really carry that story forward in any kind of meaningful ways. I was doing a little bit of reading after we just finished watching it, but there's talk that this was split into 2 movies, that this is like the Ares story, and then they will follow it up with like the Sam and Cora story, like what's going on with them, and then the stories will converge, I guess. But man, if it's the same people, writing that story and doing those characters and handling the world of Tron, I don't know that I want to see that.
I'll watch that third one if they get that guy who did Tron Legacy back.
That's another thing. The direction here is so frantic and so not thought out. It's just a light show.
Legacy is so careful.
It's very well directed.
That man understands composition. It's a gorgeous movie. This thing has a few shots that kind of stand out, but for the most part, it's just a mess of lights and lasers.
Nothing about the use of the visuals is entertaining. The action is all really bad. Quick cut, closely shot.
Oh man, that's another thing. The editing. The camera won't stop moving. It's always cut, 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 cut. It's like, can you just linger on something for a minute?
Yeah, the action scenes are all way too big. You might have had, like, in the original or in Legacy, a few characters fighting each other. In this one, it's like 1 versus 20 characters, and the action is just way over the top and way too much.
Just not subdued in the slightest.
And then the integration of the grid and the real world it just turns into like destruction porn.
You know what it reminded me of is how back in the 1980s, whenever they would adapt like a popular cartoon like Masters of the Universe, and they didn't have the budget to like set it in Castle Grayskull, so they would set it on Earth. It kind of reminded me of that, only on a budget.
Yeah, it's weird. When they were leading up to this movie, one of the things that you and I talked about was not really digging the idea of leaving the grid and, integrating the grid into the real world. Because, one, it just feels like a cop-out, like, how's that going to work? The grid is an interesting place. Like, we can tell stories there, we can do something with that. And just the idea of creating the ultimate soldier, once again, it's been done in a million movies, and it's been done better, and it's such a tired concept, and it shouldn't be done with Tron.
No.
Like, no one wants to see that. No one wants to see the militarization of this 80s property about programmers and hackers and video games. And that's really kind of what this is. It's just a perversion of something, that used to be fun and interesting and had some heart and creativity and artistry behind it. Now it's just flashing lights and colors and sound and noise.
Corporatization of another interesting property.
Yeah, good things to say about the movie. Do you have any?
Just the soundtrack. I'm sure that soundtrack on its own is a bop.
Yeah, so like with Legacy, the soundtrack from Daft Punk was a huge part of creating that movie's atmosphere and vibe. Nine Inch Nails this time does the score for Ares, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and man, they bring their A game.
They're doing all the heavy lifting.
They are doing all the heavy lifting. When this movie starts and that soundtrack starts going off and we go into the embarrassing opening titles with these like horrible computer graphics of like newsreels.
Yeah, the very first thing you see in this movie is a manipulated interview of Jeff Bridges from the 80s where they like altered his mouth Forrest Gump style.
Yeah.
And it looks horrible. We've seen YouTube videos that do this better.
Yeah, but when that score kicks in and that bass starts thumping and the electronics start doing their thing, man, it's a good feeling. And you start to think, oh man, they cooked on this one. This is going to be something else. And as powerful as Trent and Atticus are, even their superpowers can only extend so far. They try to make this movie exciting. They try to make it fun and energetic. They try to prop up everything on the screen. They try to give everything as much weight as they can. But there's no saving this script and this dialogue and these characters.
There's only so much you can do when the visuals and the story is so limp.
Yeah, it's such a shame because it actually is like a really great soundtrack.
Wasted talent.
We just wasted on this horrible material. There is like an extended section where we return to the original grid.
The original grid. That's the only other kind of semi-positive I had because on the one hand, it's so member-berry-ish, but at the same time, it's kind of cool seeing it rendered again with modern technology, and
it's done very well.
It looks right.
Like, if you can do this now, why aren't we doing this? Why doesn't the story take place here?
Yeah, the original grid, as represented in this film, is considerably more interesting than the Dillinger Red grid.
There might have been something to, like, a program finding his humanity in the simple, like, archaic world of the original grid. Maybe there's something that could have been done there.
Yeah. As overdone as the story is, it can be done right so long as it's written well, and this isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest problem is the creatives behind this just saw a franchise that they hadn't worked on in a while, and they did a quick, cursory search to see what did everybody talk about when they talked about Tron and Tron Legacy, and their top results were visuals, and soundtrack. So that's where all the money went. And they paid some hack writer and a guy who directed Maleficent and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Dead Man Tell No Tales.
Yeah, to put this together. No, thank you.
Yeah, if we do this again, I don't care how many dump trucks full of money you have to bring to that. What is that guy's name?
Joseph Kosinski.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Joseph. Forgetting your name. You're good. I don't care how many dump trucks full of cash you have to bring to Joseph Kosinski's house. Get him back.
Yeah, get him to direct it. Fire the writers for this one. Hire a team. Have them put together a really solid story. Remove Ares from the plot. I don't care how you do it. Let's get this back on track. Because this is everything I was afraid that this series was going to turn into in current Disney's hands.
Yes. And considering he's incredibly ancient, this will probably be Jeff Bridges' final go-around as Flynn.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to handle him being shoehorned into the plot here. And it's not done in a way that undoes anything that they did in the previous movies. But it's also, like, clearly done just as, like, we have to have him in there, so here he is.
Yeah. So, what is your final number grade on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's real bad. I'll give 2 points to Nine Inch Nails, 1 for Trent and 1 for Atticus, and I'll give 1 point to the people that brought the original grid back to life. So I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Terrible.
Yeah, 3 is about what I was thinking. I was hovering between a 2 and a 3. I think for the same reasons, the soundtrack is like the strongest element, and then, yeah, the return to the original grid, for as brief as it is one of the higher points, despite its member-berry-ish
It's also
integration.
The only time in the movie where it actually slows down and the characters kind of examine their situation and they talk about things.
Correct, but even that is tarnished by the fact that they keep cutting back to the real world, and I'm like, just stay still for a minute.
Just
Damn it!
Stay here for a second, please.
3 out of 10 from both of us. Terrible.
Not a good movie.
That's Tron Ares. End of line.